Let me ask you this. When was the last time you stood in awe of the beauty of God's creation? Maybe it was while watching the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky with colors so vibrant it felt like heaven itself had come near. Perhaps it was gazing at a night sky filled with stars, so numerous and dazzling that you couldn't help but feel small in their presence. Or maybe it was something simpler. Hearing the gentle rustle of leaves on a crisp autumn day, or watching the delicate dance of a butterfly in a garden. Moments like these have a way of stirring something deep within us, don't they? They awaken a sense of wonder, a feeling that we are part of something so much greater than ourselves. And that's no accident. The beauty of creation is not just random or accidental. It is intentional. It is designed by God to reveal His glory, His power, and His love. Psalm 19, 1, 2 captures this beautifully. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of His hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. Think about that for a moment. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of His hands. Every sunrise, every mountain peak, every blade of grass is a testimony to the Creator. Creation doesn't whisper about God. It shouts His glory. And it doesn't do so sporadically or occasionally. The psalmist tells us that day after day, night after night, creation is speaking. It is revealing knowledge not just about the world around us, but about the one who made it all. And yet, how often do we miss it? How often do we rush through our days, so consumed by our to-do lists and our worries that we fail to notice the beauty that surrounds us? How often do we fail to hear creation's testimony because we're too distracted to listen? I remember a time when I stood on the edge of the Grand Canyon, and for a moment I was speechless. The sheer vastness of it took my breath away. The colors, the layers, the layers, the layers, the layers, the way the sunlight danced across the rocks. It was overwhelming. And in that moment, I wasn't just admiring the canyon. I was marveling at the Creator who designed it. That's the power of creation. It draws our eyes upward. It reminds us that there is a God who is bigger than us, who is more powerful and more creative than we can imagine, and who invites us to see His fingerprints in every corner of the world. But creation doesn't just tell us that God exists. It tells us what He's like. It reveals His creativity, His order, and His attention to detail. Think about the intricate design of a snowflake, each one unique, or the complexity of a flower blooming in spring. Think about the rhythms of the seasons, the way the earth tilts just perfectly to sustain life, or the way the ocean's tides are governed by the pull of the moon. These are not random occurrences. They are the work of a master designer. And they remind us that God is not only powerful, He is personal. He is a God of beauty, of precision, and of purpose. The beauty of creation also tells us something about God's heart. Have you ever considered that He didn't have to make the world beautiful? He could have made everything functional and gray, but instead, He chose to create a world filled with color, with diversity, with breathtaking beauty. Why? Because beauty reflects His character. It is an expression of His love for us. When we see a sunset or hear the waves crashing against the shore, it's as if God is saying, I did this for you. I created this so that you would know me, so that you would be reminded of my presence and my care. Creation is a gift, a tangible reminder of God's goodness and his desire to be known by us. So today, I want to invite you to slow down. I want to challenge you to open your eyes and your heart to the beauty of God's creation. Don't let the busyness of life rob you of the wonder that is all around you. Take a moment to look up at the sky, to listen to the birds singing, to feel the warmth of the sun on your face. And as you do, remember this: every part of creation is declaring the glory of God. It's inviting you to worship, to stand in awe of the one who made it all. Because when we see the beauty of creation, we catch a glimpse of the beauty of the Creator. And that is a gift worth pausing for, worth celebrating, and worth giving thanks for. When we read Psalm 19, 1, 2, the heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they reveal knowledge. We are stepping into an extraordinary truth about creation. These verses remind us that God is constantly speaking to us through the world he has made. Creation isn't a silent witness. It's a living declaration of God's greatness, a visual symphony proclaiming his power, his creativity, and his love. But here's the incredible part. This isn't a message reserved for a specific group of people or a particular time. It's a universal, unending testimony accessible to everyone, everywhere, at every moment. Every sunrise, every mountain peak, every rushing river, and every star-studded sky shouts to us about who God is. Creation is God's way of revealing himself to us, drawing us closer to him, and inviting us to marvel at his glory. Let's start with the grandeur of the heavens. Have you ever stood under a night sky away from the city lights and been overwhelmed by the sheer vastness of the stars? Scientists tell us there are more stars in the universe than grains of sand on all the beaches of the world. Think about that for a moment. The same God who created each one of those stars, who placed them in their precise position, who calls them each by name, is Isaiah 40:26. Isaiah 40:26. The God who created you, he knows every detail of your life. He knows your fears, your struggles, your joys, and your hopes. And yet, in the midst of running the universe, he cares deeply and personally for you. The heavens don't just declare God's glory. They remind us that this infinite, all-powerful Creator is also a loving Father who longs for a relationship with us. But it's not just the vastness of creation that speaks of God's glory. It's also the intricate details. Have you ever marveled at the delicate design of a snowflake, no two alike, or the way a flower unfolds in perfect timing, its petals reaching for the sun? Consider the changing seasons, the way the earth tilts at just the right angle to sustain life, or the way the tides of the ocean are governed by the pull of the moon. These aren't random occurrences. They are the work of a masterful Creator who cares about the smallest details. The beauty and precision of creation reflect the mind of a God who is not only powerful, but also deeply intentional. When we take the time to notice these details, we see God's fingerprints everywhere, and we're reminded that he is both infinite and intimate. Paul echoes this truth in Romans 1:20 when he writes, "For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse." What Paul is saying is profound. Creation itself is a testimony to God's existence and his character. It's a sermon that has been preached since the beginning of time, one that transcends language, culture, and geography. Every time we see the beauty of a sunrise, the vastness of a canyon, or the majesty of a waterfall. We are witnessing God's invisible qualities made visible. His power, His wisdom, His creativity, they're all on display, inviting us to worship and trust Him. But here's the challenge. Are we paying attention? How often do we take the time to really notice the beauty of God's creation? In our fast-paced, technology-driven world, it's so easy to become numb to the wonders around us. We rush from one task to the next, our eyes glued to screens, our minds preoccupied with endless to-do lists. And in the process, we miss the sacred messages that creation is constantly pouring forth. The psalmist says, day after day, they pour forth speech. Night after night, they reveal knowledge. Creation doesn't stop speaking. It's relentless in its testimony of God's glory. But if we don't slow down, if we don't look up, we risk missing the message entirely. I remember a time when I was feeling overwhelmed by the demands of life. My heart was heavy with responsibilities and my mind was clouded with stress. One evening, I stepped outside for a breath of fresh air, and what I saw stopped me in my tracks. The sky was ablaze with color, shades of orange, pink, and purple stretching as far as the eye could see. It was a sunset so breathtaking that I couldn't look away. In that moment, it was as if God was whispering to my soul, I am here. I am bigger than your worries. Look at what I've created for you. That sunset didn't solve all my problems, but it did something even more important. It reminded me of who God is. It lifted my eyes off my circumstances and refocused them on His glory. That's the power of creation. It has a way of breaking through the noise of our lives and drawing us into a deeper awareness of God's presence. Creation also tells us something profound about God's heart. Have you ever considered that God didn't have to make the world beautiful? He could have made everything functional and gray, and it still would have worked. But instead, He chose to create a world filled with color, diversity, and breathtaking beauty. Why? Because beauty reflects His character. It is an expression of His love for us. When we see a majestic mountain or hear the soothing sound of waves crashing on the shore, it's as if God is saying, this is for you. I created this to show you my glory, to remind you of my presence, and to draw you closer to me. Creation is a gift, a tangible reminder of God's goodness and His desire to be known by us. So, let me ask you, when was the last time you truly noticed creation? When was the last time you allowed the beauty of a sunrise, the majesty of a mountain, or the simplicity of a bird in flight to stir your heart toward God? Creation is God's way of reaching out to us, of reminding us of His presence and His love. The question is not whether God is speaking through creation. The question is whether we are listening. Today, I want to challenge you to slow down, to open your eyes, and to let creation lead you into a deeper awareness of God's glory. Because when you do, you'll find that the heavens aren't just declaring His glory. They're inviting you to worship Him with awe and gratitude. Don't let the beauty of God's creation go unnoticed. Let it draw you closer to Him, reminding you of His infinite greatness and His intimate love. When Psalm 19:2 tells us that day after day they pour forth speech, night after night they reveal knowledge, it's as if creation itself is having a constant conversation with us about the greatness of God. Imagine that Every sunrise, every sunset, every whisper of the wind through the trees is communicating something to us. And what is creation saying? It's proclaiming that there is a Creator, and He is glorious, He is powerful, and He is good. Creation doesn't just hint at God's existence. It declares it with every fiber of its being. From the vast expanse of the heavens to the smallest flower blooming in a field, creation is constantly testifying to the greatness of its Maker. And here's the incredible thing. This testimony is universal. No matter where you are in the world, no matter your language, your background, or your circumstances, creation speaks the same message to all of us. It's a sermon that transcends barriers and invites every person to see the hand of God at work. Think about the rhythm of day and night for a moment. The sun rises each morning, painting the sky with colors that no artist could ever replicate. It brings warmth, light, and life to the earth. Then, as evening falls, the sky transforms again, often with the gentle glow of a sunset that feels like a masterpiece crafted just for that moment. And when the sun finally dips below the horizon, the stars begin to appear. Countless points of light scattered across the heavens, each one a reminder of the vastness of God's creation. This rhythm of day and night has continued since the very beginning of time. Genesis 1:3. 5 tells us that God spoke light into existence and separated it from the darkness, creating the first day. And ever since, this cycle of light and darkness has been a constant reminder of His power and His faithfulness. The sun rises every morning because God is faithful. The stars appear every night because God is consistent. Creation is telling us, look up. Remember who He is. He is still in control. But creation doesn't just reveal God's power, it also reveals His wisdom. Consider the intricate balance that exists in the natural world. The earth is positioned at just the right distance from the sun to sustain life. The tilt of the Earth's axis gives us seasons. The water cycle ensures that rivers, lakes, and oceans are replenished. Plants produce oxygen, which we need to breathe, while we exhale carbon dioxide, which they need to survive. It's a system so complex and interconnected that it could only have been designed by a God of infinite wisdom. And this same God who orchestrates the movement of galaxies and the flight of sparrows is deeply involved in the details of our lives. Jesus said in Matthew 6:26, "Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they?" The message of creation is clear. If God cares for the sparrows, how much more does He care for you? One of the most beautiful things about creation is its ability to reveal God's character. Have you ever thought about how creation reflects His love and generosity? Take, for example, the variety of foods we enjoy. God could have given us one type of fruit, one type of vegetable, one flavor for everything. But instead, He created apples, oranges, strawberries, bananas, and hundreds of other fruits, each with its own unique taste and texture. He gave us the richness of grains, the sweetness of honey, and the refreshing coolness of water. Why? Because God is a generous creator. He delights in providing not only for our needs, but also for our joy. Psalm 34:8 invites us to taste and see that the Lord is good. And isn't it amazing that we can literally taste God's goodness in the food He provides? Creation also speaks to us about God's peace. Have you ever stood by the ocean and felt the rhythm of the waves calming your soul? Or walked through a forest and felt a deep sense of tranquility as the sunlight filters through the trees? These moments remind us that God is not only powerful, but also a God of peace. He created a world where we can experience His presence in the stillness, where the beauty around us can quiet our hearts and draw us closer to Him. Psalm 23:2 says, "He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul." Creation is one of the ways God refreshes us, reminding us that He is our shepherd and we can rest in Him. But here's the question: are we listening to what creation is saying? The psalmist tells us that creation pours forth speech and reveals knowledge. These aren't passive actions, they're active, ongoing declarations. They're active, ongoing declarations. And yet, how often do we fail to hear them because we're too distracted or too busy? How often do we rush past the beauty of a sunrise or the simplicity of a blooming flower without stopping to give thanks to the one who made it? Creation is constantly inviting us to slow down, to look up, and to worship the Creator. It's reminding us of His power, His wisdom, His love, and His peace. And when we take the time to notice, it changes us. It deepens our gratitude, strengthens our faith, and draws us closer to God. So today, I want to encourage you to listen to what creation is saying. Step outside. Look at the sky, the trees, the flowers, and the birds. Feel the wind on your face and the warmth of the sun on your skin. And as you do, remember that all of it is declaring the glory of God. It's inviting you to see His hand in the world around you and to worship Him for who He is. Don't let the beauty of creation pass you by unnoticed. Let it lead you into a deeper awareness of God's presence, a greater appreciation for His goodness, and a heart full of worship for the Creator of all things. When we consider the beauty and testimony of creation, there's one truth we cannot ignore. God has entrusted us with a responsibility. Genesis 2:15 tells us that from the very beginning, God placed Adam in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. That means creation is not just a gift for us to enjoy. It's a stewardship for us to nurture and protect. God designed this world with such care, with such intricate detail, and then handed it to us saying, take care of it. Think about that for a moment. The Creator of the universe, who spoke the stars into being and shaped the mountains with His hands, invites us to partner with Him in caring for His masterpiece. That's not just a duty, it's an honor. And yet, how often do we overlook this sacred responsibility? How often do we take the beauty of creation for granted, or worse, treat it carelessly? Our call to stewardship is not just about protecting the environment. It's about honoring the God who created it. To be a steward of creation means to see the world the way God sees it, not as a disposable resource, but as a reflection of His glory. It means recognizing that every tree, every river, every animal, and every flower is a testament to His creativity and provision. It means understanding that the earth belongs to the Lord, as Psalm 24:1 declares. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. When we care for creation, we're not just protecting nature. We're worshiping the Creator. We're saying, Lord, I see your handiwork, and I want to honor you by caring for what you've made. Stewardship is an act of gratitude. It's our way of saying thank you to God for the gift of this beautiful world. Jesus Himself pointed to the beauty of creation to teach us about God's care and provision. In Matthew 6:26-27, 29, he said, look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? His splendor was dressed like one of these. Think about that. Jesus is telling us to look at the birds, to notice the flowers, to see God's hand in the details of creation. And as we do, we're reminded of His provision. Now, as we do, we're reminded of His provision. Not just for the birds and the flowers, but for... If God cares so deeply for the smallest parts of His creation, how much more does He care for us? And if He cares so deeply, shouldn't we care deeply too? Shouldn't we care deeply too? Shouldn't we do everything we can to protect and preserve what He has made? But stewardship isn't just about the big actions. It's about the small, everyday choices we make. It's about choosing to live with gratitude and mindfulness. It's about seeing the world around us not as something we're entitled to, but as something we've been entrusted with. Maybe that means taking steps to reduce waste or being intentional about how we use resources. Maybe it means teaching our children to appreciate the beauty of nature and to see it as a gift from God. Maybe it's as simple as picking up litter during a walk in the park or planting a tree in your community. These small acts, when done with a heart of gratitude, become acts of worship. They become our way of saying, Lord, I honor you by honoring what you've made. And let's not forget that stewardship is also about celebrating creation. It's about pausing to marvel at the sunrise, to listen to the rustle of leaves in the wind, to watch the waves crashing on the shore. It's about taking the time to enjoy and appreciate the beauty of God's handiwork. Psalm 104 is a beautiful example of this kind of celebration. The psalmist marvels at God's work, saying, how many are your works, Lord? In wisdom you made them all. The earth is full of your creatures. Psalm 104, 24. When we take the time to celebrate creation, we're not just enjoying nature. We're drawing closer to God. We're acknowledging His wisdom, His creativity, and His generosity. And in doing so, we're fulfilling our role as stewards of His creation. But stewardship also comes with a sense of accountability. In Luke 12:48, Jesus says, from everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. And from the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be asked. God has given us so much in this world: the beauty of the mountains, the vastness of the oceans, the abundance of the fields. And with this gift comes a responsibility to care for it. One day, we will stand before God and give an account of how we lived. Not just in our personal relationships or our spiritual walk, but in how we cared for the world He created. That's a sobering thought, isn't it? But it's also an opportunity. It's an invitation to live in a way that honors God, not just with our words, but with our actions. So today, I want to encourage you to see creation as more than just a backdrop to your life. See it as a gift, a reflection of God's glory, and an invitation to worship. And as you do, consider how you can be a better steward of this incredible gift. Maybe it's through small, practical changes in your daily life. Maybe it's through teaching your children to love and respect the world around them. Or maybe it's simply through taking the time to notice, to appreciate, and to give thanks for the beauty of creation. Whatever it looks like for you, remember this. When you care for creation, you're not just honoring the earth. You're honoring the Creator. You're living out your faith in a tangible, meaningful way. And in doing so, you're joining the heavens and the earth in declaring the glory of God. As we come to the conclusion of this message, let's take a moment to reflect on what creation is truly saying to us. Psalm 19, 1. 2 reminds us that the heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech. Night after night they reveal knowledge. These words are not simply poetic. They are a call to action, an invitation to worship, and a challenge to live differently. God's creation is not silent. It is speaking to us constantly. Every sunrise is proclaiming his faithfulness. Every star-filled sky is testifying to his greatness. Every blade of grass and every gentle breeze is a whisper of his love. The question we must ask ourselves is this: are we listening? Are we paying attention to the beauty around us? And more importantly, are we allowing it to draw us closer to the Creator? Because creation is not just something to admire. It's something that calls us into a deeper relationship with God. You see, the beauty of God's creation is more than just a reflection of his power and creativity. It's an invitation to know him. When we look at the majesty of a mountain range or the delicate petals of a flower, we are seeing a glimpse of God's character. We are reminded that he is both infinite and intimate, both mighty and merciful. The same God who formed the galaxies also formed your heart. The same God who sustains the oceans also sustains your life. And through his creation, he is inviting you to worship him, to trust him, and to walk with him every single day. But that requires us to slow down. It requires us to set aside the distractions of life and take the time to notice, because when we truly see the beauty of creation, we can't help but be moved to worship the one who made it all. So today I want to challenge you to take a step of action. I want to encourage you to go out into the world with fresh eyes. Look at the sky, the trees, the rivers, the mountains, whatever is around you, and see them not just as scenery, but as reminders of God's glory. Take time to thank him for the beauty of his creation. Let it lead you into a moment of worship where you pause and simply say, Lord, you are amazing. Your works are wonderful, and I am in awe of you. And don't stop there. Take it a step further by sharing this message with someone else. Maybe it's a friend, a family member, or a coworker. Invite them to join you for a walk, a hike, or simply a moment outside where you can marvel together at God's handiwork. Use creation as an opportunity to point others to the Creator. But this challenge doesn't stop with worship. It extends to stewardship. Ask yourself, what can I do to honor God by caring for his creation? Maybe it's as simple as picking up trash during a walk in your neighborhood. Maybe it's planting a tree, conserving water, or finding ways to reduce waste. These small actions done with a heart of gratitude are acts of worship. They are a way of saying, Lord, I honor you by honoring what you have made. And as you do, you'll find that stewardship isn't a burden. It's a joy. It's a way to live out your faith in a tangible, meaningful way. I want to leave you with this thought. Creation is a gift, but it's also a reminder. Every time you see the beauty of the world around you, let it remind you of God's faithfulness. Let it remind you that the same God who created the heavens and the earth is the God who is with you, who loves you, and who has a purpose for your life. Let it remind you that you are not an accident. You are part of his divine plan. And just as he carefully designed every detail of this world, he has carefully designed every detail of your life. You are his masterpiece created in Christ Jesus to do good works. Ephesians 2:2n. So as you leave here today, carry this truth with you. The heavens are declaring the glory of God, and they are inviting you to join in that declaration. Don't let the beauty of creation pass you by unnoticed. Let it draw you closer to God. Let it lead you into worship. Let it inspire you to live with gratitude and purpose. And let it remind you that the Creator of all things is also the Lord of your life. Let's take a moment to pray together. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the beauty of your creation. Thank you for the way it reveals your power, your wisdom, and your love. Help us to slow down and notice the beauty around us, to let it draw us closer to you. Teach us to be faithful stewards of this incredible gift and to live in a way that honors you. Lord, may the beauty of your creation always lead us into worship and gratitude. In Jesus' name, amen. Now go and let the beauty of God's creation remind you daily of his presence, his love, and his glory. Take time this week to experience it, to share it, and to celebrate it, and to celebrate it. And as you do, may you find yourself drawn closer to the heart of the Creator himself. God bless you.